So that issue with the yeast was really bugging me, and I couldn't end the video right there. I had to do an analysis of the yeast. A friend of mine told me that there was a way of testing yeast to see if it's active or dead. So I went out, bought a jar of yeast, some Red Star, not a sponsor, made a loaf of rye bread in the bread machine, and it looks pretty good. It rose higher than usual than what I've been doing. As a matter of fact, in my last batch of rye bread, I wanted to get more volume, so I added more flour and a little more water, same amount of yeast. And what happened was there was a little more mass to the loaf, but it didn't rise any much higher, and it didn't finish. It was doughy. I should have known there was a problem with the yeast back then. But anyway, I'm going to test the yeast, see what we have. I'm going to use a teaspoon of the new yeast. Teaspoon of sugar. Put some warm water in there. Not too hot. Two tablespoons. I'm not going to fast forward. I'm just going to let it go at regular time. I'm going to cap this, put it in the freezer because the jar says to refrigerate after opening. And I noticed on my old yeast that that's set to refrigerate after opening, and I've been keeping it in the cupboard all this time. This one, which I haven't used in a couple of years, that expired in 2019, 3 years ago. This one expired 4 years ago. I should have known there was a problem with this, because when I smelled the opening of the bag, it kind of smelled like a sumo wrestler's armpit. So there was something sour in there. And I'm not going to buy so much yeast anymore. Just going to buy it nothing larger than these 4-ounce jars. That's Fleischmann's, not a sponsor. What's going on here? I am going to stop the camera and give this 5 minutes to rise, see what happens. It's been 5 minutes. There's a small amount of bubbles on the top. I expected more foaming for the fresh yeast. Let's try the 3-year-old yeast. I'll check that in 5 minutes. It's been 5 minutes on the 3-year-old yeast. I think there's a little activity in there, but I don't think there's that much. I notice on the jar, not only does it say refrigerate after opening, it says use within 6 months. And I had no idea about that. So I'm definitely tossing that. Now I'm going to try that older Red Star. This stuff, which is 4 years old. I'll let that sit for 5 minutes. Okay, this is the 4-year-old Red Star after 5 minutes. Yeah, there is some activity in there, but obviously it's not enough based on the results I'm getting. So I'm going to toss this. I'm going to toss the 3-year-old stuff. From now on, I'll keep everything in the freezer. And then I'll toss it after, well, whatever the label says. Because the new stuff says to toss after 4 months. Here's a fresh Red Star. Let's give that one a little time. 5 minutes with the fresh yeast. You can see a layer of fine foam on the top. I think I'll give it another 10 or 15 minutes, see what happens. Here's a fresh yeast, 15 minutes. You can really see it foaming. It's really building up quite a head. That's only 2 tablespoons of warm water. As a control, I ran the 4-year-old yeast for 15 minutes, and you can see there's very little action. There is some action, but very little. Not enough for a successful bread making venture. Thank you.